Greetings, my fellow gamers. It is I, Wraith King, bringing you news from beyond the mirror from the other world. Sorry I'm so quiet. I actually lost my voice because I was playing Hearthstone again, and I was recording a video on Hearthstone, and I have lost my voice recording. I was yelling so much, but I had so much fun playing it. I will be uploading a video on Hearthstone sometime the next day, if not the same day this video comes out, so stay tuned for that, alright? But anyways, today I've been getting a lot of questions about offensive builds, and offensive builds can be built multiple ways in 7 Nights, so it's not exactly something that's really easy to talk about, but at the same time, there are some really good builds that I think you guys should know about that I have found over my years of playing 7 Nights, and one I found recently is devastating. I haven't been able to build it because there are a few awakened characters that I just don't have, but you guys, I'm pretty sure a lot of my friends do have these awakened heroes, so you might be able to craft these decks, these builds before even I do. But alright, here's my favorite offensive build. This one is extremely meta. It's something that you see a lot in Arena. I know there's an empty space there, but there's a reason that space is empty. Is because Jave is supposed to be there, or Jave, whatever the heck his name is. I don't like him. You guys know the story about me and Jave. But anyways, Jave is supposed to be there. The awakened Jave. Jave is a devastating hero. I'll be honest with you. I've seen him in Arena so many times. And because, first of all, his AoE attacks are just so freaking overpowered. It's ridiculous how overpowered he actually is when you take him in Arena, especially when you throw him in the back and put him on an aggressive team like this. He gets devastating. So many people use the Awakened Jive nowadays because of that reason, because he can deal so much AoE damage. And I actually tested my theory of how this build would work. I had a theory. My theory is that Jive's normal abilities, his AoE abilities, would be equivalent to a regular deadly strike from Delens, before he was awakened, of course. And it turns out I was almost right. I went to a very, very high level in the dungeon. I mean, the castle, rather. A tower, rather. Dungeon. What was I talking about? But anyways, the tower. I'm at a very high level in the tower, and I brought Jave along with me, and it's obviously a bad idea to bring an AoE character that just deals pretty much just AoE damage and doesn't exactly support the team in too many ways besides supporting himself. Jave isn't really known to be very useful in tower, but once I brought him there, the damage he dealt was ridiculous. It literally cut HP all the way in half for that level of dungeon. That's a pretty high level. Let me see if I can bring you guys to what level I am in tower right now. That's not the right place. Here it is. I'm at level 39. These are some really, really strong heroes you have to fight here, and Jive just melted through them. Like, it was ridiculous how much damage he was actually dealing. I was in shock of how much damage he actually dealt, but you have to put him in the back if you want this to work. He is overpowered right now in the meta. Way overpowered. Why do I say that? Because first of all, damage reflection. That plays a huge part nowadays. Using a death meta build is kinda slowly dying out because there are so many characters that have resistances to death and all status effects in general. So the meta for death is slowly going away. Death was so powerful. That's why it lasted so long, and it's still lasting ever so slightly. But just a little. It's not lasting a lot. It's a really, really good build and all, but I feel like the DPS teams are going to be really, really strong in this meta. Now, okay, let me show you how this build really works. What makes it so strong? First things you need is a character that can protect you from debuffs. Now, that character, in my opinion, should be a Spike, or maybe a Carl, like I use. I use Carl a lot. So you can either use him or Spike. Spike because he has that Void Shield, really strong Void Shield, and his status immunity lasts quite a while, even more so than Carl's. But the reason I use Carl is because he can remove debuffs off your team, and he can debuff. And his awakening skill is pretty strong too. So that's the reason I use Carl a little more, because he can deal more damage, and he has debuff on him, and the AI doesn't use him constantly. Another thing I wanted to tell you about is lethal for this team. Lethal is something you're going to want to build. Why do I say that? I usually want a lot of attack speed, but the truth is I don't really like the way I'm jumping off subject saying this, but I don't really like the way lethal works in this game. That's another thing I don't like about this game is lethal. It makes the AI attack. If you have 2 lethal items on a particular character, the AI is going to use them a little more often, and I find that a little silly. It shouldn't matter what type of item you have on your character. The AI should use them if they're good. Say they have debuff, the AI should use it when it can. I've seen some incredible AI, and just coming back from Hearthstone, the AI on that game is insane. So if the AI can be that smart on a game like Hearthstone, it should be twice as smart on a game like Seven Knights. So I don't understand why the AI has to have certain items for it to use certain heroes. It's just, I just don't like that. I just don't like that at all. But you know what, getting back on subject, let's talk more about offensive teams. Lethal is something I want you need to build if you want the AI to use a certain character a little more often. So though lethal on Jave, if you're going to have him in the back, throw lethal on him so the AI will use his abilities more often in arena. But he will be so strong, so freaking strong, my fellow gamers, that there are some he will just kill outright. That is literally how strong he is. He seriously needs a nerf. Now, some people don't always use Jave. Some people, or Jave rather, whatever his name is. Some people like to use the newest Lubu, the Awakened Lubu. Some people like to throw him on their aggressive teams because he increases the damage of all offensive heroes on your team. That's one of the reasons why I kind of like to leave Carl on my team, because he's an offensive hero. And if you have 4 or more, or 3 or more, or is it 3 or more? I think it's 3 or more offensive heroes you have on your team, then you will get an additional buff. But keep this in mind, one of those buffs doesn't stack with the leans. He increases strength, and so does a lean. So they will not stack. That's one of the reasons why I don't exactly recommend Lubu, because one of his abilities is completely incapacitated. It will not work. I just don't feel like he does as much damage as the Awakened Jive. The Awakened Jive, his AoE attacks are insane. And pair him with his pet. If you have a 5-star, it's a good idea to throw that on the team as well. And increases the damage of AoE attacks. So it's really important to have his pet along on their team with you if you want to build an offensive team. But most offensive teams aren't always like this. Some of them just have Jive and or Jave, whatever his name is. Some of them just have Jave, Dellins, and then they would have Aline, and they wouldn't have an Ace, or they wouldn't have a Carl. They would, in place of Ace and Carl, they would probably have someone like a Chris in there in place of Ace. I forgot his name there for a second. Sorry about that. But yeah, they might have him in place of Ace, which I don't really like that too much. Although it makes sense to have him because he's kind of a support. Chris is kind of a support. Every time an enemy dies, you get some HP back from it, so he works as really good as a support. And since he is a physical fighter, he deals physical damage. Aline's buff can apply to him, so he is a pretty good replacement for Ace. But why do I throw Ace on my team? Is because Ace pairs really well with pretty much every character, every offensive team. He pairs really well with every offensive team because when he dies, he boosts your attack drastically, both your magical and your physical. But you probably want to pay attention a little more to physical. He's going to boost your physical damage greatly, and Jive will deal tons of damage, tons. I keep calling him Jive. I don't know why I'm doing that, because I'm pretty sure his name is Jave. But anyways, he will deal tons of damage.
The Awakened Jave is really, really strong because he can increase his AoE, the damage of his AoE attacks. That's his Awakening skill, is he increases his damage of the AoE attacks, and the fact that his Awakening gauge charges faster than other Awakening gauges, it really, really does complement his damage. It really does work with it well. I wish I could show you guys some gameplay on it, but I can't really do that right now because I don't own him. I just don't own him. And I apologize for my voice. It's really, really messed up. It really is. I was screaming a lot on that video. I can't wait to show you guys that one. But anyways, alright, Jave is just completely overpowered in this meta. I'm hoping he does receive a nerf because everybody's using him. I'm thinking about getting him because he kind of just makes everything kind of easy. The fact that he just does so much damage, his AoE is just so strong. It's ridiculous. And that applied with his Awakening skill, which increases the damage of his AoE skills, it makes things really, really hard to make a comeback, especially for teams that aren't so meta. Like mine, for example. I use a death meta team. It's sort of meta, but I like to mix things up a little bit and make it seem a little more custom. So mine isn't entirely death meta, but it is a strong death meta team. It does have a lot of meta in it. But anyways, what my point is people that don't really use too many meta teams, they like to just have fun with it. Jave is gonna just punish them. And I honestly just don't like that about him because he's just too strong. Everybody uses him, and every time somebody uses him, you're bound to lose, or you're bound to have trouble at least. So it's just something I don't really like about his character. But at the same time, right now he's overpowered in the meta. Jave is someone you're going to want to have on your team if you're building an aggressive build, like I said. So it's very important that you do have him on your aggressive team if you're going to have one. But let's talk a little more about Lu Bu for a second, because I've been getting a lot of questions about him. What kind of build would you have with him, and how would he work? Well, first of all, he pairs incredibly well with Ace. Incredibly well. Him and Ace work great together. Not only because, first of all, they're both offensive fighters. Once Lu Bu's awakened, he's converted to an offensive fighter, and his buff works with multiple fighters on the team. But again, his ability doesn't exactly stack with Aline's, but be that as it may, he's still really strong because he does increase other effects other than just damage. So he stacks really well with Ace. So it's a good idea to have him on the team. Say you don't have Jave, but you do have an awakened Lu Bu, or Jave rather. Say you don't have an awakened Jave, but you have the awakened Lu Bu. Then it's a good idea to throw him on the team because he makes an excellent replacement. His AoE isn't as strong, but it does do some really, really crazy stuff. And the fact that he has lifesteal on his attacks like that, if you have enough offensive fighters, then yeah, he's definitely a really good replacement for Jave if you do not have him. But him versus Jave, say you have both of them but you don't know which to use on your offensive team, I would highly recommend Jave. But yeah, offensive metas will always have, now this is something you have to keep in mind, they will always have a Delins in them and Aline. Those are two characters that these offensive metas will always have in them, because Delins and Aline pair fantastic together, because Delins increases total damage, Aline increases strength. Both of their abilities work pretty much the same way, but at the same time they can stack with each other. So it's very important that you keep these characters on your team if you are going to make an offensive meta team. I personally don't like metas. I'll be honest with you, but these teams are very effective in Arena right now, and a lot of people are using them. So keep in mind that once you use this team, I'm really out of it. I'm sorry. Both my throat is just completely destroyed, and both my head hurts too. This is the reason I call those videos Hearthstone headaches, because they literally give me a headache. But anyways, back on subject. These teams will be seen a lot. So if you build an offensive meta team, just know that you are going to see a lot of other players using a similar team. So just be sure you keep your team better than theirs, alright? But anyways, that's what I have to say about offensive meta teams. They are very strong, incredibly strong, but you need to have the base heroes. I would call them kind of like the skeleton heroes, which is Delins, and Aline. Those are the bare bones of your team. Those two heroes are the bare bones. So you need to have them both awakened if possible. So be sure to have them on your team. But anyways, that's all the time I have left, my fellow gamers. Remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I love making guides like this a lot. I love uploading RPG videos all the time. So stay tuned for those, and stay tuned for that Hearthstone video I'm about to release very soon. It's a really crazy one. I can't wait to show it to you guys. It was a big update. I had a lot of fun playing it, and my throat very much disagrees with me. But anyways, that's all the time I have left. Take it easy for me, alright? Bye.